Hello everybody, Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Thursday's edition, and we're broadcasting from our beautiful studios here in Irvine, California. Happy to have you with us today. And if you believe, like a lot of us out there, that the dollar's falling apart, and because government has over-leveraged itself, and you have no faith in the stock market, and you don't even believe in cryptocurrency, who would? Why should you invest your money in? Well, put it in gold, of course. Gold's been around for thousands of years. It's always been the original currency out there. But you don't want a tub of gold in your backyard. So yes, what can you do? Call Genesis Gold Group and set up a gold-backed IRA. The dollar may collapse, the stock market may collapse, but gold has never gone to zero. Call Genesis Gold Group right now. Learn about rolling over your risky-backed IRA into a gold-backed IRA, and they will even give you $10,000 in free silver if you qualify. So call right now, 800-594-9698, 800-594-9698. Folks, I'd like to welcome back my friend, my compadre from the East Coast, the smoky East Coast, Jeffrey Dunitz. Happy to have you with us today.
You know what? All the liberals are saying orange air is bad after spending 4 years saying orange man is bad.
Yeah.
They keep is bad.
So Jeffrey, what's it like on the ground? Because you are at ground zero right now. I mean, I see the reports on television. The air looks pretty unhealthy, but this isn't a new phenomenon. I mean, why is all of a sudden the wind shifting and blowing it through the Northeast?
It's never been this bad. The only time, and it was only Manhattan, is 9/11 when I was there. Everything was black.
Right.
But my wife was in the city yesterday, and it was all orange.
Right.
It was a little orange here yesterday too, but today it's normal. You can see the air.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously, there's reasons why this is happening. I don't think
this is the worst wildfire that Canada ever had.
Yeah, and so that explains it. So, these liberals in New York, and I saw some schmuck get on TV from some city environmental council member talking about, this is a result of global warming and it's climate change. I mean, Jeffrey, I know there's a lot of Democrats.
Schumer? Usually I use that word with Schumer.
Yeah, well.
He said that in the Senate today.
What did Schumer say? I didn't catch that one.
Oh, he said it's all because of global warming. I had to throw him the shoe at the TV set.
Of course. This is the perfect thing for all those climate wackos. All right, but before we get on to that, I know it's bad, New York. Let's talk about the real hot news of the day, Jeffrey. And that news is this. The FBI has finally acquiesced to Representative Comer's threat of contempt. Imagine that. The FBI director would not turn over this information only until he was absolutely forced to. We all know what's going on. They're hiding it. They're protecting the Biden crime family. And look, we don't know what's in that document, but so far, Comer and Raskin have looked at it. James Comer, the head of the Oversight Committee, Jamie Raskin, the Democrat on the committee. So Jeffrey, in your opinion, okay, they're now allowing the entire House Oversight Committee to take a look at this document. But I understand there's going to be quite a few redactions in it.
Well, they're doing it in a SCIF, and they're not allowed to take SCIF, guys. It's a soundproof room. You can't hear inside. You can't hear outside. And you're not allowed to bring, your phone to take note or a pen to take notes.
Right.
So it's all memory.
Yeah, but
that's the only way Raskin was able to say what he said.
Well, I mean, they just come out and lie. I mean, to me, this is very obvious. They're doing everything they can to protect Joe Biden. And like Rand Paul said earlier today, it's clear that Hunter Biden was selling influence. There's bank records that support that. There is some indication the president may be involved in this. We don't know that for sure, and we're not going to try him without having the evidence in front of us. We don't do things based on innuendo on this show or propaganda. But Jeffrey, Director Wray appears to be basically holding the water for the Biden administration and doing everything they can to block, deflect, and it just, it gives the impression to a lot of Americans there is not equal justice.
I don't do anything that I don't have evidence. But if you look at some of the letters that have come out in the last 2 weeks, it certainly indicates that the president was not involved, but he was getting money from it. I don't know if that's involvement or not, but that's, I know I didn't get any money from it.
Well, listen, if they document, and this is a big if, folks, we don't want to, promote something that we don't know factual, but Comer's committee has been following the money. And if at the end of the day, they tie that money went to Hunter Biden and that money later ended up in the bank account of the big guy, Jeffrey, this is going to be a massive scandal. It would rival former President Nixon's scandal at Watergate, and it would be no wonder they're going to all kind of depths to hide this from the American public.
Well, remember, it's not a scandal unless he called the president of Ukraine. I mean, that's what they did to Trump. It was a scandal.
Yeah, but no. I beg to differ with you. If they document that money went to Hunter Biden, because Hunter Biden was put on the board of directors of Burisma, and that Ukrainian guy that was still being hunted down for all kind of crimes, all of a sudden those crimes vanished. I mean, the case was dropped. Okay, so something happened to tie in Hunter Biden's political influence related to Burisma and a string of payments, which according to an informant, have totaled $5 million, of which allegedly some of those funds made it back to at that time Vice President Biden.
And don't forget, he was on the board of a Chinese bank that he promised he'd quit, and he's still on the board.
You're talking about Hunter Biden, of course.
Yeah, Hunter, not the president.
Yeah, of course. So again, folks, as we always say, we're going to cut through the propaganda. We don't have the evidence here, but we know that Comer's diligently looking under every rock for it. What's really irritating, Jeffrey, is when you get these backbench representatives that come on and they say, oh, there's nothing here. There's nothing. Oh, really? There's nothing here? What about all this money that Comer's been able to identify? How do you know there's nothing there? That's my whole point. So,
well, Raskin, look, if a bird dies and drops on your lawn, Raskin would blame the Democrats. I mean, blame the Republicans.
Right.
The guy is so biased, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's a hardcore Democrat, him and his wife. So, look, we're going to...
Hardcore doesn't matter. I know a lot of hardcore Democrats. They're logical, though. They care about the country. If one of the Democrats says something that's bad for the country, they'll say it.
Well,
they believe in the liberal, the liberal ideals, but they don't believe in saying something stupid about the country.
Right. Well, we're going to follow this investigation as it goes. And so far, again, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. No pun intended relative to your situation in New York right now. But anyhow, we're going to stay on top of it, folks. And as the information comes out, we're going to talk about it because, we don't want to speculate on what the president did or didn't do because we don't have the evidence. But we are going to keep a close eye on this one. And Jeffrey, it's really amazing. The mainstream media, they're push on this fake document story related to Trump, and yet on a $5 million bribe possibly involving the current president. Oh, no, we got to protect him. We can't do anything about that.
You know what? My local newspaper, when the Durham report came out, they didn't cover it.
It's just
at all.
What about the New York Post?
Oh, that was front cover.
Of course, exactly. All right, let me move on here because we've talked about this. More information is going to come out. The climate crisis, Oh God, it's just insane. All right, it's funny because being here in Southern California, apparently, while I was gone, I was down in Florida traveling all over the country. Apparently, people here were complaining because it was overcast every day. And I'm like, if you're complaining about weather in Southern California, you got bigger issues than everybody else in the country. Let me move on. Okay, Vice President Pence, I thought, made a pretty impressive day one about getting into the race. Now, I know a lot of people immediately discount Pence. Oh, he can't. Trump people don't like him. Mike Pence is a principled Reagan conservative. Okay, and I think
he's the only one in the race.
I think, and again, I'm not giving a prognostication on day 2 of Pence's entering in the race, but I do believe as we go through the summer and Pence camps out in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada, I think eventually when the voting starts, you already know that Donald Trump's right now, he won New Hampshire last time with 35% of the vote. Okay, we're going back to 2016. So Trump's obviously going to be in there. Ron DeSantis at this point, I believe, will continue to be in there. He's got a ton of money, and he's got a lot of Republican establishment backers. But then there's going to be, I think, a couple more slots, Jeffrey. I think either Tim Scott or Nikki Haley, one of the two, will be able to move on. And when I say move on, folks, I'm talking beyond the first 4 states, beyond Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina. Okay? Because you've got to do pretty well in those states, otherwise the money dries up.
Right.
And then I think there's a 4th lane. And now, again, this isn't to say anything negative about any of the candidates, but when I hear the media talking about, well, Mike Pence doesn't have a lane, the heck if he doesn't have a lane. The guy has been a Reagan conservative, forever. He's been a representative in the House of Representatives. He had a high-profile position. He was governor of Indiana, vice president. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. Now, you may disagree, or if you're a Trump supporter, you may be adamant that he blew it on January 6th. Pence is adamant that he did the right thing, and the media is very sympathetic. The media will make Mike Pence a hero because in their view, he did exactly the right thing. And in a lot of people's views, he did the right thing, mine included. So I think Pence has a shot, as his poll numbers go, he can crack what I call the top 4. Because I believe after South Carolina, Jeffrey, 4, maybe 5 people can move on. But we got a field of 10 right now. Am I missing something on this? Or do you see someone else that might be able to crack that top 4 or 5?
In my mind, Pence is the only true conservative left. And that includes Trump, because they're kind of starting to lean left to try to get the Democrats' vote. And Scott is a moderate. He's in between. And he's the only true conservative. I mean, Christie, he's a member of the Crybaby Party. And he, like I said, and I think that under tons of pressure, he saved the Constitution.
He did. I mean, he performed his duty the way he was supposed to do it. I have no disagreement with that. I thought it was preposterous what some of the January 6th Trump people were saying. He didn't have the power to do that, and Pence did what he had to do.
Very moral thing.
Yeah, Mike Pence is a moral guy.
And that's kind of like, I like him for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's unapologetic about his position on abortion. He's crystal clear on that. He's crystal clear on his economic policies. And, he's came out and he says, I don't think January 6th people should be, pardoned. So, I mean, Pence is a principled conservative. Now, the question is, are there enough Republican voters who agree with those positions? We'll find out.
There's another question. He tends to be a very calm campaigner. Mm-hmm. Is he a powerful enough campaigner to get enough votes to be in that top 4?
That's the question we're going to find out. And let's talk about a couple other candidates here. We had Chris Christie. I know you're no big fan of his. He announced. North Dakota Governor
Wife would vote for him.
North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, he's announced that he's running. He's running on an economic platform. Honestly, I got to learn a little bit more about the governor of North Dakota. I don't know enough about him to give you I don't want to short him or go long. I have to study, learn a little bit more about him. But I do know this: North Dakota is a pretty prosperous state, and it's an oil state, and he's a proponent. So we'll stay neutral on him until we learn a little bit more. But he entered the race. The media's given him no attention so far. So, we have a field of 10.
I really like Tim Scott. He might be a moderate, not a conservative, but he'll work with both parties.
Yeah, I respect Tim Scott a lot. I think he's auditioning for vice president, which is nothing wrong. There's absolutely zero wrong with that.
View, though.
What's that?
Did you see the clips of him on The View?
Yes, I did. He's an impressive young man. I think he is acquitted himself extremely well. I think he's going to be a formidable force as we go through these primaries. And again, I believe either Tim Scott or Nikki Haley, we can't have both of them because one of them will emerge because you're going to have Trump, DeSantis, I think Scott or Haley, and then Pence. That's just how I handicap it this early in the race.
Really quiet. I haven't really noticed Haley over the last couple of weeks. I get her emails asking for money, but that's it.
Well, look, she was a very good governor of South Carolina, and she was a good UN ambassador. There's a lot of appeal to Nikki Haley, okay? And
she hasn't been out there. At least I haven't seen her out there.
Well, again, we are so early, Jeffrey. I mean, we're into June of 2023. I mean, think about this. The convention is still 14 months away to the convention. So we got a lot of time to go there. But I really believe, I think there's opportunity for maybe 4, maybe 5 to get past. Once you get past the first 4 contests and you get into Super Tuesday, where you're buying media time and it's expensive, you've got to do well in some of those early states. Now, who's going to emerge from South Carolina? I don't know. It's really, really too early.
Right now, Trump has 45% of the Democratic Party, of the Republican Party. So there's 55% that needs to be split up.
Well, if you look at right now, and I talked about this the other day, between Trump and DeSantis, they're accounting for about 70 to 75% of the vote. I think that's going to change over time, but that's just polling. There's not votes. I mean, folks, that's just polling. And at this early stage of the game, Trump has the great name recognition. Obviously, nobody can approach him on name recognition. He's former president. DeSantis has a lot of support within the party. Tim Scott's respected. Nikki Haley's respected. Vice President Pence. I mean, I can go on and on. But, that's why we have campaigns. And I've said it along. If Trump's the nominee, he'll come out of this stronger because I think the quality of the competition is going to be good.
What do you think of the possibility of him getting indicted?
I think it's an excellent chance. Let's talk about that. Look, do I think it's wise? Absolutely not. Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, do you really want to indict a former president over something related to documents?
And the president is being investigated for the same thing.
Well, Biden did the same thing. So how are you going to prosecute one and not the other? That's why I can't even. Why they would go down this path and open up Pandora's box, I don't get it. Now, the argument I heard Christie talking was, well, look, they've asked him for a better part of a year to give the documents back. All he had to do was give them back and we wouldn't be in this mode. That's probably true. I mean, I know you disagree with Christie on a lot, but that is factually likely true. But do you indict a president? I don't think so. Now, what's going to happen in Atlanta? He could get indicted in both. They could do the document piece. I've heard reports they might even move it out of D.C. to Miami. But Trump has been advised he is the target of a criminal investigation.
Well, you know why he's the target?
Yeah, I do know why.
The Attorney General wanted to be on the Supreme Court,
Of course,
and he was blocked from it by
Mitch McConnell.
McConnell with the help and Trump.
Well, of course. I mean, listen, look.
And this is going to be his payback.
I believe, Jeffrey, that this is a distraction to hide what potentially could come out of these FBI documents. I think it's a like the media. All right, look at this. We got Trump. Well, wait a minute. What about Biden? Biden had documents at his house too. Oh, well, yeah, but it's Trump. And all the media circus that would go with that. And then to add,
Trump had him in a locked room. Biden had him on top of his car.
Right. Again, the double standard between Trump and Biden, it's just crazy. So, yeah, and then they might, just to add insult to injury on pile-ons, this district attorney down in Atlanta may come back with something on, Georgia election interference. I don't know. We'll see. But to answer
Did you listen to that tape?
What's that? Say again?
You listened to the tape of the phone call?
Yes, I did.
To me, he asked him for something, but he didn't say you got to do it.
No, you don't charge someone based on that phone call. Right. There has to be a whole lot more than that. So to answer your question, yeah, I do think an indictment's possible. As Trump's attorney said on Meet the Press last week, it's possible he will not be indicted. The Trump attorney said he could, but there's a lot of it, according to Trump's former attorney, there's a lot to indicate that he should not be indicted too. I'm in the not indict camp, but do I think the Democrats would do anything to distract from this Biden FBI thing? Yeah, I do. And what better distraction than Trump?
Well, they also think that Trump is hiding his two horns in his red tail.
Look, again, follow the money. You do that, then, but they're not doing that with Trump. They don't follow the money with Trump. But anyhow, let me move on. Got some other topics to talk about. Speaking of the election, Jeffrey, inflation's still the number one issue. So, when all these candidates running, you figure out how to resolve the inflation issue, despite Fed rate increases over the course of a year, to get us where we are today, inflation's still running 5%.
Oh, yeah. And the word is, what I'm hearing is it's going to be another 25 basis points when we all thought that it's over.
The economic numbers have come out pretty strong, Jeffrey. Pretty strong. Now, you are starting to see first-time claims inch up, but, the economy's humming along pretty good. I mean, unemployment rate's 3.7. You don't have recessions at 3.7. Now, if the unemployment rate ticks up into the mid-4s, that's a different story. But we're not there yet. Yeah, well,
from what I'm hearing, that the low-paying jobs, they're replacing them because they have the technology not to need them.
There's still a shortage of workers out there in a lot of industries. Look, this is a riddle. I mean, we're going to stay on top of it. But my point on inflation was, Jeffrey, that's the number one issue that Americans are concerned about. And it's running 5% despite all the effort. Now, the Fed's done a good job bringing it down. I get it. But there's more to do.
Sure.
Yeah. But now you're at the point where, Fed has a dual mandate, employment and stable prices. Well, employment's still awful strong right now. But prices, that wrecks governments, that wrecks countries if you don't get the inflation bugaboo under control. So you solve that, you figure that one out, and that will benefit the American people.
Well, it's what people can afford to put on their table. That's more important than anything.
Well, and fill their gas can up, fill their car up, drive to work.
Gas is starting to inch up.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is going to cut back their production.
But oil was down a little bit today because there were reports about U.S. and Iran getting together on some type of agreement. A lot of cross currents here, Jeffrey. But you brought up the Saudis. They've been in the news over the Live Golf thing. which Trump again predicted Liv and the PGA would eventually merge. But isn't it ironic how when Trump was president, there were great ties to Saudi Arabia, and under Biden, it's like oil and literally, no pun intended, folks, oil and water. I mean, the Saudis don't like Biden.
Yeah. And you know what? Now they say that I follow a group called ISIS. No relationship to the terrorist group, but it tracks nuclear stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a group that tracks them, and it's well respected. They said that Iran is 12 days away from a bomb, and all they have to do is turn the key. Okay, there's gonna if Biden lets them get the bomb, there's going to be a war, because Israel is not going to let them get away with that.
No, they will not.
Just like they bombed bombed the Iraq, and just like they bombed Syria when they had a nuke, they're going to bomb Iran, and the United States is going to have to pick sides. And I guarantee you that Biden will pick the side of Iran.
That's a lot of ifs, but if all that played out as you're saying, and I still have my doubts about some of that, yeah, he would. I believe he would. So, look, I know this. Whatever this site that you're talking about, okay, the Israeli government's going to know a hell of a lot more than that site.
For sure.
Okay, the Israeli government's got agents everywhere, and you know they'll know. The Israelis will know before the Americans if the Iranians have something like that. In my opinion, okay, because you know when you're that close, and you got weapons trained on Israel, they'll know. So, all right, let's talk about something else going on between the two great governors, Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom. You know
DeSantis hasn't been arrested yet for
no, not yet. No, it's comical. You know, California has a budget deficit. Florida has a surplus. California's a sanctuary state. Florida is not. You know, if you're a sanctuary state and a sanctuary city, welcome them with open arms. I don't understand the complaint. The fact that they're flown in. California, I mean, they have effectively an open border policy. What's the beef?
DeSantis won his election by a lot.
19 points.
Right? And Newsom, they tried to recall.
Well, that didn't really work. So.
But they got enough to at least have the recall election. No one thought he'd lose. But there's a lot of dissension about him in California.
Well, there's no question about it. Look, you have people leaving California, you have people moving into Florida. But I guess the point is this. He tries to grandstand and, quote, blame DeSantis for these migrants coming in from Florida. First of all, they didn't come from Florida, they came from Texas. But it does look like Florida paid for the flight. So I just find it humorous because here, you know, if you're a sanctuary state and a sanctuary city, and all these deep blue cities around the country are all sanctuary, and now they're realizing, oh my God, what are we going to do with all these people? You know, Biden's letting 2 million a year come across that border. So, and they're not going to red states, some of them do, but they're going primarily to these blue cities, and you know, that's an issue. You know, Biden did. Go ahead.
I did an article a couple of weeks ago showing that there was 350,000 Californians who left over the last 3 years, who left California and moved to Texas.
Wouldn't shock me at all if those numbers are correct.
In the end, what that's going to do is make them lose a congressional district or two and let Texas pick up one.
Yeah, that's been happening. Texas has been adding congressional districts, as has Florida. Hey, to no surprise, Jeffrey, and a couple other pieces of news here, Biden vetoed the bill passed by the House and the Senate, excuse me, on canceling student debt relief. You know, the House and the Senate wouldn't allow it. Biden vetoed the bill. Ultimately, I think, and most commentators, left and right, are saying this, the Supreme Court's going to make a ruling on this at the end of June. I've seen nothing to indicate that they're going to do anything other than throw that case out and say students got to start paying their debt. Even in the bill that was just recently passed, which extended, the $4 trillion worth of credit to the government, student loan payments have to restart in August. So again, for everybody that hadn't been making them for the last 3 years, first because of the pandemic and then the fake pandemic extensions, that's going to change starting in August, assuming the Supreme Court doesn't do something incredibly stupid, which I don't think they will.
It's going to turn it down, because the last time I read the Constitution, the House was in charge of the money, and the House voted against it, and the Senate voted against it.
Oh, wait, but Biden vetoed the bill. To override that veto would require 67 senators.
Right, and if the House says it, and he even got backed up by the Senate, he can't spend the money.
No, but in this case, it was going to be codified into law. The Supreme Court will rule Biden doesn't have the authority to do that, and then the case will be over, and students starting in August will have to start making their payments. That's what's going to happen, folks. So, but had Biden signed that bill, it would have been law, and then it makes the Supreme Court case moot. But because he vetoed it, and there aren't 67 senators that are going to override that veto, the outcome now is clearly in the hands of the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court's going to throw the Biden appeal out, because the president doesn't have the authority to do what he tried to do. And I think they've known it all along. But, to try to buy votes, typical Biden, that's what they did. Jeffrey, let's talk briefly. 2024 election, we're almost out of time. Ronna McDaniel, finally, you and I have talked about this for months, have come out and said, hey, we want our people to vote early. Early voting.
Thank God.
Finally, our side is waking up. This insane idea of, my God, we're traditionalists. We only vote on election day. No. Times change. You have to change with the times. Finally, the RNC is going to get out the vote early thing to get people to vote early. I do this, Jeffrey, related to that. It's a small step, but it's at least a step in the right direction.
I think that that's one of the things helping the Democrats, that you can vote early.
No question.
Personally, I'm going to vote on election day. It's just a tradition to me. That doesn't mean everybody has to. And I think that it changes the image of the Democratic Party, that they're more advanced than the Republican Party, just by that. And I think it'll help the Republican Party a lot.
I hope it does, my friend. I hope it does, because, look, you cannot go into elections with the deficit that we've been experiencing the past couple cycles. So anyhow, good news, the RNC recognized that. You and I have been advocating that for the better part of at least the last year. So anyhow, thank goodness there. All right, you got 30 seconds. Close it out. Jeffrey, positive, negative? How do you see things right now?
I see things, the Mets are going to continue to suck, and I'm waiting for the football season. But as we get closer to July 4th, it should be building in everybody. What a great country this is. I complain all the time. Every Thursday here, I'm complaining. But you put it aside, this is still, tell me a greater country than this.
Listen, it's the greatest country ever, and we're very proud of it. I wish liberals were as proud of the country as much as conservatives are, but that's another topic for another day. Folks, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening this week. We'll be back next week. We'll cut through the BS and the propaganda, tell you straight. And again, everybody have a great weekend coming up. See you soon.